And arriving to this 100 episode is giving the proof, the faith that that is what is make the difference. The point is how we keep consistent with what we are doing. For all those people that wanted to really have something done, I was very close to give up many times. Having a podcast and running a business and needed to do all those things at the same time is not well. I cannot do everything. I cannot showing up anymore. Sometimes it's those moments that you said, I don't know if I am really doing something meaningful with this. Is this really follow my purpose of empowering other women or empowering other people or not? For me, every message, every like, every comment that people have been given to me is the way in I can see that I have been generating that impact.
Would you like to tell us a bit more about what the future looks like? Action. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning if you're listening to this in the car. For those of you who have got an amazing sense of observation, you'll notice that I am not Maria. In fact, I'm Philip Grother. Today, I'm going to be your host on the Brilliantly Branded podcast. And joining me today for a very special day is your normal host, Maria. Maria, welcome. I get to be the first one to congratulate you on this very special day. Today, we're celebrating the 100th episode of the Brilliantly Branded podcast.
Yes.
Once again, congratulations. So how does that make you feel?
Well, thank you very much. I was really not having that in mind, that I will have opportunity to celebrate this big milestone. Arriving to the 100 episode means a lot to me. And I know that people don't know how much effort needs to be in place to make the things happen. And this is part of the reasons why I want my audience and the people that have been following to all this time already, almost 2 years, arriving to the 100 episode is a big, big, big achievement for me, for you as well, because you are part of the creators of the Brilliantly Branded podcast, and all the people that have been part of this journey with me, all the guests that have been coming and sharing their voice, sharing their stories, and all the things that have been happening around the podcast. So for me, it's a moment of celebration. I am fully grateful by the fact that when we celebrate our achievements, we become even more powerful in order to recognize what is have been happening, what is coming next, and how the things that we have been doing is something that really have been changing the path of our lives. That is the case with me arriving to the 100 episode. So a bit long answer to your question, but I just wanted to say thank you and to include all those people that have been part of the journey.
Inclusion. That's really the essence of what the Brilliantly Branded podcast has been about. In the beginning, it started out, if I recall correctly, as, you basically just wanting to put across all of the knowledge that you had accumulated over the years and just helping maybe demystify what marketing and branding was for a ton of people.
Yeah.
And then as everything kind of unfolded, you realized that you were giving women and loads of different people a voice. And so could you tell us a bit about the journey that you have been on personally, this journey of transformation over the last couple of years? Because what I'd like for us to touch on throughout this episode is your journey and how your journey has been influenced by all of your guests. So would you like to tell us a bit about the journey that you've been on as an individual, as a woman at this stage of your life, having created a podcast that is now celebrating a significant milestone.
Yeah. One of the most important things always is where we are coming from. And part of the reasons why I have been creating the concept of the podcast, it was coming from my personal story. My personal story arrived to the point where I felt that I have been losing my voice. I was part of the corporate world, and being part of that environment make me feel that sometimes I was not enough. So I was not communicating myself in the way that probably my audience was expected. And I found myself working in environments that it was sometimes male dominated industries that make me feel in certain way that have been really losing my voice. So in that point, and when I arrive to start to be closer to the real life, getting out of the corporate world, then you say, okay, now I have opportunity to really put in practice what I know, what I have learned, and how can I be part of a society, let's say, because we live in a country in where you need to build your own voice. If you don't have your own voice, you are just one more. You can become transparent very easy. So I just think in the time, of course, sharing these ideas with you and building with you, how can I show myself in a way that the people will know about me better? But most importantly, how can I solve the problem of really appear in the way that show who really I am, show how I'm doing the things, my knowledge, my experience, but most importantly, how can I recover my powers, my women powers, and how can I give to other women those powers? As my profession and expertise and my passion is branding with a long time background in marketing, I was thinking I wanted to know how we as women have been building our own brands. And that was part of the beginning of the story. So I start to bring to the podcast all those women that have been creating brands because I was just curious about how they have been creating and how giving to them a voice that was shifting. All the process was shifting. I at the beginning I just wanted to make it just about branding, and then I realized, well, first having those conversations on those episodes with those women is a process of empowerment for me and a process of empowerment for them because I can recognize the bigger things that they have been doing. And when they started to come to the podcast, they was in a shy way saying something like, I have been doing this, but it's not a big deal. That was mostly what I have been finding every time when I was doing those interviews. All those women was telling me that. And I was really not understanding why. And then it was when I become even more curious and more encouraging to continue giving this voice to knowing all the stories, to know the up and downs. So all the things have been giving the shape to the podcast in order to build the community that I have been bringing today, where I not just attract all the people that wanted to come to the podcast, but as well other genders. So here have been inclusion. There's many people that have been wanted to share their own personal story of life, and that ended up being their own personal brand. So all the things are with this common alignment and still keeping my purpose of women empowerment, that adding to the name of the podcast, brilliantly branded, is how all those people have the power to create even their own brand. So that's the reason why is women empowerment through the lens of branding.
One of the things that you just said strikes a real chord because it's a moment of realization that solving your own problem you were actually helping other women realize that they could. So one of the things that has struck me personally, because by the way, I can't take any credit for the podcast at all. And I really do mean that sincerely. Maria does absolutely all of the work. Sometimes I kind of throw something in there, and it may or it may not stick, but 99.9% of the work is absolutely you. But I think what has struck me personally the most is the number of people, the number of men and women that you inspire as well. And we get that on a regular basis, actually, where people, they won't comment online because they're afraid of what other people might think of commenting on this topic or that topic. But the number of people that in private come and see you at events or when we're out and about, and they say, thank you for what you've been doing, and you touch them in that way that you never thought you ever would. And so today is a milestone, of course, the first of many, 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 many more. So what's been the one thing that you have learned, if there is a one thing, that you have learned from your guests? The thing that has helped you maybe grow the most over the last couple of years of doing the podcast?
I love this question because, in fact, it's not just one thing that I have learned. And I could say it actually that I have been learning many, many, many things. Probably I cannot count. I cannot give you a number because the amount of growing, self-growing and growing professionally and growing in knowledge and growing in seeing others' experiences and how you can really learn from them. Because actually the structure of a podcast have that since the beginning. That is learning and inspiration. So I established that since the beginning when I decided to do the structure of the podcast. And for me, it was very important. What is in it for me as a host of this podcast to really have opportunity to give value through others giving value, but knowing that my audience will have the value across my guests, and how I can showing up in the sense that I am not showing up alone. I am showing up with someone that is going to give you value. So part of the most important things that I have been learning is that doing the things in a team is something that is making a huge difference. Alone, you were saying actually few seconds before, I have been doing that much, and that is not true. I mean, we have been working together in making many things for this podcast happen. And I cannot say that have been just me doing the things. Probably the operational part, yes, because this podcast I started at the beginning, I was doing absolutely everything. And with the time, you realize that there is another tools and another things that you can use to make the things happen. So let's say for me now, it's a process that I put it in place that allow me to, of course, running a business. That is what I am doing right now, running my own branding and communication agency, wearing another hats as well, supporting women in tech. So it's many things that are happening around. And thanks as well to the lessons that I have been learning from each of the guests as well that have been being brave enough, because it's part of the feedback that I have been listening every time when every episode is finished. The person is telling me, well, that was difficult. That was difficult to share my story. That was difficult in the sense that I was with a lot of tension. But they have been already very grateful with me because they said, I'm feeling that I have been in a safe place to deliver my story or to tell to the world what is happening in reality with my business or the things that I wanted to share. So many, many lessons learned.
There's an interesting part, building on what you just said. One of the reasons why people end up opening up to you is because you build that relationship of trust, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens before the podcast and before you actually have the quote unquote recorded conversation that's not scripted, by the way. The questions are prepared, and then the person, you can stick to the questions, or on the contrary, with certain people you can kind of drift away from the conversations and the questions and then come back. But one thing, and the parallel to make between the podcast and the relationship of trust that you build between you and the guest, is also a takeaway that we have been seeing of what branding and marketing actually means at the very, very core, and that's building that relationship of trust between you and your audience. And so today it's very much a question of, and this is the quest on which we are now on, is carrying on building not just a qualitative audience, but an audience that knows that you really are there to deliver value, and this is your way of giving back to the universe, like you so often say. And so I'd like to come back to that idea of giving as much value as you possibly can. And this has been a huge lesson for us as well. The more you deliver, the more value you give without the expectation of return. And that's what the podcast is all about, is giving people a voice, because you have some amazing conversations with your guests. And I have the feeling sometimes that you could speak for hours and hours and hours with these people, because you connect at a very, very human level. And in the end, that's what really marketing and branding is all about, is creating that trust between you and your audience. And you don't have to please everyone all the time, do you? It's very much a question of being happy with the value that you're delivering to the world. So would you like to tell us, speaking about delivering value, would you like to tell us a bit more about what happens after this? Of course, the podcast is going to continue. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, this is not an announcement of this is the end of the podcast. It's absolutely not that, but it's evolving. And would you like to tell us a bit more about what the future looks like?
Of course, yeah. And part of the things that I will love to share with the audience is the fact that I become very creative every 2 years. So I have...
She reinvents herself.
Well, no, not until this point, but I mean, I am trying to get it up to date, in the sense that the markets are changing very fast, and we need to be adapted with what the market needs and wants. And now, with all this speed in which artificial intelligence is bringing us, you really need to react. So as I am coming back with a huge background in marketing, and then coming specialized on branding, I have been realizing how necessary it is to shift, how necessary it is to give these next steps that will really position yourself again in the top of mind. So the reasons why I'm saying this about how you need to react into the market, I realize that if you don't build your personal brand nowadays, then you are not going to have this differentiator that will allow you to sell whatever you want to sell. When you build your personal brand, and I am emphasizing this because I realize how important is this, because it's a lot of information that you find outside that will be very difficult for you to choose who or what to buy. So in order for you to really establish this uniqueness, establish the way that you are going to sell your product or service, the only way to do that is personal branding. So what I have been preparing for the next steps, of course, parallel to the podcast. For me, the podcast is going to be continuing um, working as have been working until now with the same purpose of women empowerment. And I have to repeat, women empowerment is not just about women. Women empowerment is actually how we are helping other women to succeed, how we are giving that hand, how we, between women as well, are giving that hand to really make us and help between us, make us have a different perspective, a different way to belong, a different way to give this hand and knowing that you are not going to remove what I'm going to have. I mean, it's a mindset. So this is still part of my purposes. But as well, part of this empowerment is helping others to know how to talk about themselves. And in that sense, I have created a product that will allow people to come with me and with a group of coaches actually to develop a program in which we are going to work on their own identities. But this is not just like a branding program where the people come and build their brand. This is a product that is based on how you use your sense, your five sense, how you use your visual, your smell, your taste, your listening, your touch, in order for you to know yourself better. And once you have the clarity about yourself, you will know, of course, with our support, how to build your entire communication plan and how to show yourself outside with a clear identity. So this is the next product that we are going to launch officially. We're thinking this idea that really will make you create something by yourself, because creativity play a role, a very important role in this process. So in one moment in my life, I said, well, how can I bring creativity and boost the creativity inner self? And we all can be creative even if we are in the same place. And that was a lesson learned after making a trip, going to different countries and coming back to Colombia, my original country, and then going to US, Miami and New York, and trying to build something based on those experiences that I was living there. And let's say that that was a big lesson and that made me create this new program. But as well, this new program is not just something that you can create in other country. I think that transformations start at home. And life was given to me signals in the sense that the geopolitical situation right now is telling us, well, try to don't touch other countries, like especially if it is the US. And I have to listen into the market. So I was doing this product designer to go to New York and doing the development of your identity. I mean, exactly the same program, but then geopolitical situation was pushing me. Probably is not the right time to go. It's not the right moment to really get out and do this process. So as transformation start by home, now we are going to do this program here in Luxembourg. So people that wanted to be part of this program, of course, more than happy to give more details and invite them to apply to join the cohort and start as soon as possible.
So for those of you who have been listening and paying attention, you'll notice that when this comes out, this will be the announcement of the new product that you're creating. And that has really been the evolution of, where to take your audience, but also how to help the people that you have been helping up until now. Because until now, you've been doing one-on-one coaching and helping people create their brands, and talking about it on the podcast and what branding actually means and how people have gone about creating their brands. And so this whole idea of connecting with the self, connecting with your five senses, has been a big moment of realization for us as well, in the sense that, and I really do love that, the anecdote about we wanted to go outside, we wanted to go far away, but actually realizing that no, transformation happens and starts at home. It's a bit like saying, well, if I want things to change, the world around me needs to change. And we've learned in personal development that the world doesn't change. We are the ones that change and adapt to the new circumstances. And so that's why starting it here in Luxembourg, that doesn't mean that we won't do it elsewhere in other countries, but starting here in Luxembourg, that's going to be a phenomenal first step.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we'll put all the links in the comments so that people can go and find out more. But coming back to the lessons learnt, because this milestone is the first of many more to come. If there was one takeaway that you could encourage people, that one first step for people thinking of, taking the leap, maybe creating a company or creating a brand or creating, going beyond their the corporate job and maybe having a side hustle, what recommendation could you give your audience for them to muster up the courage? And I'll tell you what I have observed that Maria has been doing since earlier on. So, what would you say is the one thing that the audience can do to muster up the courage and actually start?
For me, honestly, one of the biggest secrets of the recipe is consistency. Consistency, showing up, and arriving to this 100 episode is probably giving the proof, the faith that is what is make the difference. If we go and see some numbers, for example, we realize that it's a very small percentage of people that decide to even continue with, just giving the example of a podcast. Just some people decide and arrive to the 20th episode. Just another percentage. I already forgot the percentage.
I can give them to you afterwards if you want.
Okay, that would be amazing. But the point is how we keep consistent with what we are doing. So the problem is, and for all those people that wanted to really have something done, please continue showing up. Don't give up. I was probably very close to give up many times. Having a podcast, running a business, and I needed to do all those things at the same time. It's a moment when you say it like, oh, Jesus, no, well, I cannot do everything. I cannot showing up anymore. And even, sometimes it's those moments of realization that you said, I don't know if I am really doing something meaningful with this. Is this really follow my purpose of empowering other women or empowering other people or not? And let's say that as for the artists, the applause is the way that they are receiving the approval of the things. For me, every message, every like, every comment that people have been given to me is the way and I can see that I have been generating that impact. And that is not because of the vanity metrics. That is because people have been coming and telling me, do you know what? You have been changing my life. And that sounds probably quite dramatical, right? You have been changing my life. For me, it's like, probably this person is exaggerating a bit. But I have testimonials of even some guests that have been telling me, do you know what? Thanks to you and thanks to be in your podcast, I have been getting these things. So that already meaning a lot to me.
So your key takeaway is consistency. Carry on showing up.
Yes.
Very, very good. The one thing that I would like to share with the audience that I have observed you do is try and try and try again, even if sometimes the results are not quite what you expect. Okay, you go back and you try something new, you try something slightly different, and actually it is related to consistency, but it's that willingness to take the risk. The stats that you were talking about earlier on is 90% of people that start a podcast don't go beyond the 3rd episode. 90% of the people who carry on after the 3rd episode don't get past the 10th episode. 90% of those people don't get past the 20th. And it goes down and down and down and down. And that's why right here, right now, at 100, you're actually one of the very, very few people who have consistently showed up for the last couple of years. But as we said earlier on, this is a milestone. This was not an objective, right?
No.
Now, the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to make mistakes, the willingness to put yourself out there as well. And this is where, I mean, I have to say you're leading by example, because one of the things and one of the inspirations that I've heard people say to you is because you have dared to show up, you've given me the courage to show up, to start showing up. And I think if there's anything that comes out of this podcast, anything at all, is you never know how much of a light you are being for other people. And the reality is that you might never know how much of a light you are shining. And so you were mentioning earlier on, women helping other women. That is the cultural shift that we are seeing is women waking up to the idea that they can help each other. Because and now this comes from the absolute bottom of my heart. We do a lot of women empowerment related activities together, right? You mentioned women in tech earlier on. We had the pleasure of welcoming women in tech at the SNT very, very recently. It was a delegation from Kosovo. So to you guys watching out there, you know who you are. And it was amazing because we've got these young women, men and women, who are the future of women in tech. And the one thing, and this is what comes from the bottom of my heart, women, please, you absolutely need to help each other, because no amount of helping that I do as a guy is ever going to go anywhere if you're not helping each other. So this is a call to action. And in fact, I'm begging you, please, I'm down on my knees. Please help each other, because otherwise nothing's going to change. And us guys, we really do want things to change, right? And of course, is that true for every single guy on earth? No, because some of these guys are really, really afraid. But anyway, that's besides the point. The truth is that women, and this is why I believe that you are leading by example. You are showing what it's like for women to show up for other women. Does that mean that every single woman needs to start a podcast about women empowerment? No. But it does mean that you're able to show up for each other, even if you show up for one person, right? If you show up for one female friend, 2 female friends, 3 female friends, and guys can do the same. Guys can be the allies. And that's really what I want to do as your partner in life, your partner in crime.
Yeah.
I really, really want to empower you as much as possible for you to go from 100 to 200, 200 to 400, 400 to 800, 800 to 1,600, and the rest, right? Because they're just big milestones.
Yeah. I just want to compliment what you said, because it's very important, the message that you just said, and the importance of building a community. So this is part of another purpose that I have. Because at the beginning I say, well, I start the community, but the community cannot be built by two or three. The community needs to be have an audience, have a crowd to really make that work and help each other. As a part of the things that are coming for our initiatives and the brilliantly branded initiatives, is we are going to have different events regularly from now on, in which we are going to start to build a community. The community that will allow us to help between us locally and, of course, internationally as well. This is going to be continuing, given the value that initially I was just bringing to everybody across the podcast. But building a community means to have these real events that I am going to start to announcing soon on social media. That is basically how we become together every certain time in order for us to feel the network, to feel and to know the people in person. That is very different when we have all behind the screens. That is very useful, or even across the podcast. But for me, it's important to get all the community together and help all together between us. So, as a part of what is coming next, one important thing in July, I'm going to announce that soon as well, the exact date. We are going to have the celebration of the 100 episodes in an event, a live podcast event. This is going to be here in Luxembourg. I'm going to invite all the guests, and not just all the guests, all the women, men, all genders that want to come and join and will be part of the community to support, to help, to bring good vibes, please. that is super important for me. And then you will be having the opportunity to see a podcast live, to interact with us. I'm going to be there. Philip is going to be there as well. It will be some testimonials of guests that have been coming to the podcast, how the podcast have been helping them or giving to them something to learn. And that is going to happen in July. And then we are continue growing the community with these different events that we are planning. So this is, as a part of you was asking me what is coming next. So the product of creating your brand and your identity across your sense is one. The other one is the celebration of the 100 episodes with a podcast live that we are going to continue doing, and start building the community in person.
So as you can see, there's a lot coming up for the next 100 episodes. And of course, that's all part of growth, isn't it? None of this would have been possible if it hadn't been for, all of the people that have supported you, all of the people that have come to the podcast, all of the people that have contributed in some way, shape or form. And the double announcement, triple announcement, actually, 100, the product, the events.
Yes.
And this is, there's a lot coming up for the second part of 2025 into 2026. And of course, this is also another perspective that we all need to take. We live in a world of, living so quickly, so quickly now, that we forget that this is actually a long-term plan, right? This is a long-term strategy. And that's another takeaway actually for the audience when you're talking about marketing and branding, is that there's a long-term perspective to everything that you do. Who do you want to be seen as over the next, 12, 24, 36 months?
Yes.
But then what kind of legacy do you want to build? And I think that's really the phase in which we're going into now, this legacy building. And of course, does that mean that, absolutely everybody is going to fall madly in love? No, but we don't need to please everyone, right? And that's a lesson for the audience to take away with as well. You know, you don't need to try and be everything to everyone, or you won't be anything to anyone. And that's sticking to the purpose. So on that note, sticking to the purpose, I'm going to hand it back over to you. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you on your own podcast. So what would be your closing words for this 100th episode?
Well, there is a very good question because I don't have a clue for the moment. This is very me in the sense that spontaneously, the only one thing that I can say is how grateful I'm feeling to arrive into the 100 episode. How the audience, the people that know me, can trust that I will continue showing up. I will carry on. Um, I will share who I am in every episode with my up, my downs, my way to express myself, my very Colombian style to to managing everything, in the sense that for me, empathy and make feel people welcome is the way that I have been seeing how the people receive that, and how that create a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership of, do you know, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you support me in certain way, because part of this process as well needs support. And I am talking about support here because each of the people, and if you are listening to this episode and you said, I would love to go to the podcast and tell my story, you just need to know that you just send me a message and I will always contacting you, and I will always giving to you the opportunity to tell me what are the value that you are going to add to this community first. Second, you can go to our website and you can send me a message there or on LinkedIn. But even the most important part is I will receive you as you are. I am not going to try to tell you what to do, what to say, or how to express yourself. And I think it's part of the process of getting an understanding that we are coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, and we are just here trying to make ourselves heard and seen and understood as a part of the purpose in life. So the big takeaway is saying to everyone that please carry on, have clarity in your communication, because not having clarity, if you confuse, you lose. So if you are delivering a message one day that you are doing one thing and the other day another one, sometimes people that wanted to come to the podcast and I ask, okay, what do you want to talk about? And they say, maybe this is this or this. And I say, well, please gain clarity. And then I will receive you and you can be positioned as the expert that you are. So even I am helping them without knowing them. I mean, I'm just trying to make them narrow their communication and their talents as well, because we are unique. We have our own personal brand, as I have been saying across my professional life. And as well, my last message to wrap up and to close is something that I got it from a coach a long time ago, and is don't go outside to catch the butterflies. Build your garden and the butterflies will arrive. So people that have been seeing me giving some talks know what I am talking about exactly, because I have been talking about this related with branding and how you build your own personal brand. But for all those people that have been listening that for the first time, please build your garden. And building your garden is giving to you the opportunity to give yourself to know to others in the best and clear way possible. So that from my side is all.
Not much to add there then. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for being with us, one and all. Until next time.
Ciao, ciao.
I'm grateful by having you as a listener on this episode. I am in the mission of empowering thousands of women around the globe and I need your support for that. Help me to spread the voice by sharing this episode and subscribe to our social media channels. And remember, if you want to listen to exceptional stories and have someone that inspires you, please get in touch with me, because I will love to have them as a guest to learn from their experience and share their story with you next time. So until the next episode, ciao ciao.